All right. And now we welcome on American record holder Yared Nuguse, World Championship finalist. I almost wanted to introduce you as world record holder from this past weekend, but so close. You were just shy of breaking the road mile world record, which is 3:56 by Hobbs Kessler, and you ran 3:56. But if it wasn't for that 180 hairpin turn, I think you would have got it. So how are you feeling a couple days removed from your Merrie Mile in Hawaii? It looked like an awesome trip.
No, it was just like an amazing trip. I feel like a lot of the guys and myself included kind of went out there just to see Hawaii, enjoy Hawaii, and both like a really fun and interesting kind of race while we were out there. And the Merrie Mile was just like it's very interesting. I love the format of like chasing the girls throughout like the entire race because I feel like I started that race and I was just like and they're like really far ahead like and it was kind of funny because I feel like the first half of that race I was like okay, I know I can like lead this and like kind of be on pace, but like you have like no idea what you're running, like just because there's no clocks or anything till you get to like the very end, so it's just kind of like, well, I usually have a good idea of the pace I'm going, but like on the road, like in flats, it's just like feels like completely different. So I just like I wasn't scared of going too hard or anything, but I was kind of just like, this feels fast enough for the record, but like I just had no idea. But still, a really, really great race, like record or not.
Yeah, there was what was it like a $10,000 bonus? Like you're not
Yeah.
wanting to like get too caught up or like I watched the post race interview that David Monty posted afterwards, and you were still all smiles and happy about it. But does missing out on that bonus sting you a little bit? Just knowing the money that you missed out on by like less than a second.
I mean, like maybe a little, but I feel like, I performed like well enough throughout this whole year to where it's just like, yes, like of course, the extra money would be nice, but I've never really been like necessarily running for the money anyway. So like it's a nice perk that I get, but if I don't get it, it's not like "Ah, this race is ruined for me. I just like it's all about this like the actual act of racing. So I really, it sucks, but not that much.
What do we consider this? Is it a season ender or is this like a 2024 like kickoff? Like Dathan had even like put that up on his Instagram story where it was just sort of like, are we ending the season or like kicking off the new one? How did you think of this past weekend?
It feels like I it kind of like when I came to it, I was like, oh, this kind of feels like a beginning of the season thing. But just like kind of with how I felt during the race, it felt very more like end of the season still. Like just to have like a concise year of a season versus like, just starting in the fall at some point or winter, I guess kind of at this point. Um, I feel like though, definitely felt more like just like wrapping things up. I already had a great year, and this is kind of just like a fun little thing before I go into like, the real indoor and just hammering it out again, coming in a month basically.
All right, so let's drop some news on people. Last year, you made your Millrose Games debut and won the Wanamaker Mile, 1 for 1. That's amazing luck. Gave the world record a scare. And now, this time around, you're coming back to defend your title. What drew you back to Millrose Games to come back and try and go 2 for 2?
Yeah, I mean, Millrose was definitely probably the highlight of my indoor season. I only had like 3 races last year, but like that race just definitely felt like the most hype race I had been to of all those 3 indoor races. Um, just the general like excitement around it and just like being there with like hearing the crowd is like going nuts those last couple laps was just like kind of something I hadn't felt indoors in like a little bit. And also just, I think I kind of like never really did Millrose before because I always like had like a bad feeling about it. I don't know why. I was like, it's just like something bad will happen if I go to Millrose. Like I'm gonna fall or like just something. But
Instead, that
I guess
happens at ACCs for you.
yeah, it's ACC that happens instead. But still, I was kind of just like, yeah, I don't know if I'm really ready for like Millrose. Yeah, like I'll get there when I get there. And I finally did and came out with a big bang. So now guess I just gotta keep that up. But definitely is one of the. I mean, I only ran like 2 miles this whole year, but like definitely was like up there for the excitement factor, especially just indoors in like the middle of February.
So people will try and connect the dots here where you weren't that far off of Yomif Kejelcha's indoor mile world record, which is 3:47:01. You ran 3:47.38. Outdoors, you ran 3:43. So how do you go about thinking of that potential sort of world record carrot that's dangling in front of you again?
Yeah, it definitely felt like really real for me, especially just like right after the race. I was just like, yeah, I ran that like really, really hard, but like 0.3 seconds, like, almost nothing. So it definitely feels like, a goal that I can definitely within my grasp of achieving. I feel like, not only am I just a lot stronger and smarter than I was last year, but, I've just felt like I've come a long way and will be able to attack this race with like a lot more confidence for like chasing that goal of the world record versus like when I went for the first time, I was just chasing the American record. So I feel like changing that mindset and just like seeing how far I've come, it definitely feels like a very real possibility at this point.
Does that blow your mind a little bit of just like the talk about world records being within your grasp? Like, we flash back, we see all these photos of you from high school. Like, would that kid be kind of mind blown at the fact that, like, oh, yeah, like, not too distant into the future, you're talking world records?
Yeah, I'm sure I'd be pretty shocked to know I've come this far. I mean, like even when I got like collegiate records back in college, I was like, whoa, that's crazy. Like I just ran the fastest anyone's ever run in college. Like that's nuts. And then I was just like knocking down American records this whole last year, and now it's just like I'm just going for world records. Like it just these are just such crazy jumps to me, like in my head, and they've all happened in the course of like what 2, 3 years. And yet I feel like even though I would have expected that, like just based on the trajectory I am now, I feel like I'm at a point where it's just like, I feel like I'm capable of doing like anything that I truly set my mind to and that I really want to do. I just have kept like climbing my goals up higher and higher, and now here we are just talking about world records like they aren't. I've been standing for several years and aren't like super super hard to do. Uh, but it's still just such an exciting time just in track and field in general, and just to be able to like really be there at like what feels like it kind of feels like a peak, at least in like distance running or like the 1500. I feel like it's very like very competitive right now, and I'm very appreciative of that versus like being the best when like it's not that good just doesn't. I don't know if it would feel as great.
When it comes to executing like the perfect mile race, like you have, of the 2 mile races, two really good examples to look at here with that 3:47 at Millrose and then that 3:43 at the pre-classic. So now when you try and approach this race and 3:47 low might be the goal once again, or getting under that mark, it's going to take, having a really good pacemaker, potentially Eric Sawinski, like he's the most reliable guy for the job. But I guess like other than that, what is it that you need to like fine tune or get right each time out? Because, you know, a year ago, you probably would have said like that race was executed perfectly, and so was the pre-classic. So is it just, what have you learned from those that you're hoping can just be a little bit faster this time around?
I think a big part of it was for those two races specifically was just kind of like not having to deal with like too many other people. I feel like in my, at pre it was just like me and Jakob like the entire time. I had made a point to just like get out hard and like stay out where I wanted to be. And like Millrose was pretty similar with just like me, Mario, and Ollie, and like it was just mostly most of the race anyway. It was kind of just like us three just like locked into each other and kind of like just getting things going. And so I feel like as long as I can't imagine there being like a ton of people trying to go run 3:47, but if they are, all the power to them. And I feel like I should really still try to like kind of be ahead of that mess because I feel like I can run my best when I'm just really focused on just like running and not like, you know, kind of when it's kind of like a little, basically kind of gonna be more like a time trial a little bit versus like the actual just like, the racing stuff that we do during championship season. And I think like a big part of it is going to be just like being able to just like keep grinding it when I'm just like out front, which I probably will be once the pacer drops off. And so, just like making sure I'm able to like not lose focus during those like, middle two laps before I get to the last lap and start cranking, I think is just like a really important part of any race and is a little easier when I'm like behind someone like Jakob versus like me just gonna like be going out there by myself and just like continuing to hammer it on my own. So it's gonna be a challenge, but I think it's definitely what I'm capable of, seeing as how you know, I didn't lead like a ton last year at Millrose, but still I was able to kind of like get up like I think 400, 500 to go or something. So I feel like if I can just, you know, carry that energy like as soon as the pacer drops off and like continue to push maybe a little more than I think I need to, I think that'll be really helpful to just kind of like get to where I want to be with the lap to go.
I remember just how vicious that move was at this year's Wanamaker Mile. What internally happens when Yared Nuguse hears the sound of that bell saying that it's the final lap? Because it was just so vicious. Like you dropped the hammer on some of the best milers in the world. So internally, what is happening at that point?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, honestly, I feel there's a little bit of like racing amnesia, like right when you get to like 200 to go. So I feel like I've noticed I look back at some races and like my like expression changes, the way I run changes, like everything just kind of like locks into place. And it's like, it looks like I'm angry. I'm not like that angry, but I'm definitely like feeling like, oh, like this is what running's all about. That like competitive, like visceral urge to just like keep it going and go as fast as you can is just something that just really kicks in once I hear that bell. And at that point it's just like I don't know what I'm thinking about or if I'm thinking about anything at all. It's just like clearly just running. But I feel like the last lap or last 200 at least has always just like figured itself out for me, like no matter what. I've always had a strong kick, but at Millrose especially, it was just like I go back and watch that. And it's just like amazing how like quick that reaction is versus like, more of the slow builds I felt like I did a lot of during outdoor. Uh, so like I don't really know which one's better. I think it was more exciting, obviously, to just like pop off and just like, get things going a lot faster. Uh, but hopefully I still have enough energy like that at the end, trying to run at 340. Well, basically it's running at 346, but I guess we'll see.
So Millrose overlaps, I think, the same weekend as Leven, seems to be Jakob's favorite meet, during the indoor season. We've seen a lot, I guess, within the last couple of weeks, and even dating back to the summer of just Josh and Jakob trading, comments on podcasts or videos or whatever it might be, going back and forth. And I love how you just stay out of it. Like you keep to yourself, you stay quiet. But does a little part of you wish that like someone like him was in the race, so that we could get sort of, it's not just you alone once the pacer drops off. We have a little bit more of that mano a mano battle that we saw at pre-classic.
I think it definitely would make for like a more interesting race. And I feel like, it'd be really interesting to kind of just battle either like Josh or Jakob at this point, just to like kind of see where we're at in February. But at the same time, I feel like I think I could get like I think I would feel a little better about like just going out and like doing it myself versus people just being like, oh, like so and so like carried you to a race. Like I'm just like, yeah, but like a lot of it also felt like me. So I think if I go out and like run the mile like that, I think it like doesn't really give me credit that I feel like I need. I feel like I have all the credit I need to myself. But it definitely feels a little more like, oh yeah, like I did this. I did that like completely by myself and just like really went out there and hammered it. Um, but of course, I'm always excited to race those guys, and I'm sure I will at some point in the season or another. So, definitely makes for a more exciting race. But yeah, I think it's just a little better for me if it's just like kind of me like hammering it out.
All right, so we're chatting in mid-December. Last year, this time, you were into your first fall slash winter part of training with the OAC. Now, with a full year under kind of Dathan's guidance, like, are you feeling stronger than you have than you were like a year ago at this time? Like, how's the body feeling?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I feel like a lot of it was just like me adjusting to altitude, me adjusting to more training and like harder of it. Um, and like I did like a great job of like managing it where I could without like, going like too hard and like burying myself. Uh, but now I feel like I kind of do these things that like I just really struggled with last year, like a really long fartlek or like a long run where I might not get dropped like as much as I did last year. And so it's just kind of like I definitely feel a lot stronger than I had last fall, and just like being able to kind of like come into this with just more expectations of like how it goes, and like just like having a lot more strength than I did last year. Has just got me like really excited to, really like get back into racing shape and just like kind of hammer it out and see what I can do. I feel like I feel like a lot of it is very, a lot of running in general is very like mental. So like being able to just like go in and do these workouts that like I struggled with so much last year and I still killed it last year, and to be able to just like perform well in those workouts makes me think like, oh, I can like probably still like get better at racing, because I feel like I always have in the past like gotten like a little better every year. So I would hope that still continues. I had a pretty hard year to top last year, but I think as long as I like stay with the training and just really keep it up. I think I should be able to replicate or hopefully improve a little bit.
You famously are super chill. It could be on the starting line of a world championships, or it could be, a road mile in Hawaii where the stakes aren't all that high. It seems like you're so even keeled throughout. When people flip the calendar in a couple weeks and then it's 2024, all of a sudden there's just sort of like this heightened pressure of it's the Olympic year and there's a team on the line. You have the blueprint of a fantastic season in 2023. You also have the experience of what it takes to qualify and make an Olympic team based off what you did in 2021. How do you go about thinking of this upcoming Olympic year? Because, for the people who may have forgotten at this point because of all your success, like you got to the Olympics and then just didn't get the chance to run because you got hurt. And so is a tiny degree of it also sort of redemption to get back and have that opportunity to race?
Yeah, 100%. I feel like, when I wasn't able to race at the Olympics, I was obviously like pretty bummed out. Wasn't gonna let it like completely destroy me. But I was still just like, man, like I really wish I could have like just at least like fought it out a little bit more. Um, and so to kind of like come back into this year with just like an amazing year prior in my back pocket just makes it really feel like, you know, I can really do something special this year and just like come out and just like not get injured, fingers crossed. And just like really, no, really show what I'm capable of on like that stage. Because I feel like, the world stage is obviously its own like amazing and really stressful thing, but the Olympics is definitely like a step above that. And I feel like everyone feels it, everyone knows it. Like people I know who like maybe like aren't super into running or like kind of getting back into it just for the Olympic year and just like see if they can make the trial or something. And it's just like so exciting because I feel like the buzz around running just gets like so much more exciting around the Olympics, and like everyone like just cares a little more. And so I'm just really excited to kind of just go back and, you know now that I kind of like have some experience, know what to expect and what I'm doing, to really just like, well, first make it on the team and then just like do what I can at the Olympics. Like it's weird. It feels like it's like, like you said, I'm like pretty chill. So like part of me is like, yeah, it's just like kind of worlds like all over again. Part of me is like, I don't know, like this is it. Like this is everything kind of. Like you're only gonna get like basically one more of these if things go as planned. So like, you really gotta show out now and just like do everything you can.
Yeah. I think the other thing too is sort of like I'm sure you get some of it, but it might come through, your agent Ray Flynn, where like, oh, we need Yared to do like this photo shoot, or we want, a 1 year deal because it is the Olympics for him to do this stuff. And it's like there's so much more extra things that pop up here and there. And it's like 4 years ago you didn't have that. And so yeah, make it's fascinating. But I trust that you're gonna keep it even keeled and chill through the trials, which like you can't even rest on your laurels that like, oh, I had a fantastic 2023. You still have to get through 3 rounds at the US trials. Like there's no bye for you to get all the way to the final or anything like that. That's the toughest part about being an American miler.
No, yeah, honestly, like that setup when I first was at the Olympic trials in 2021 was like absolutely crazy to me. I was like, three? There's threes? How am I gonna run three of those? And now it's kind of like I kind of know like the first round isn't like that crazy. And then it's just kind of like basically 2 rounds after that. So I feel like it'll be very interesting because I feel like everyone like really showed out. Like no one, well, I don't know if no one expected Cole to like do that well, but like, to have Cole come out and like win that, it's just like you gotta be ready for like anyone to kind of just like really show up on the day and just like not lose sight and like try to, you know, focus on one thing at a time. Like can't really get too focused on the Olympics before you get through the trials. So um, I'm really excited just to go back to Eugene and see what I can do with the trials and just see what everyone else does too because I know it's going to be just so exciting.
Does that race feel like yesterday or does it feel like so much longer ago?
The 2021 race forever ago. Yeah, no, I feel like I've grown just so much since then, and it's only been like, or it will only be like 3 years. Um, but like I was just a really really scared college kid. It was just kind of like, man, like wouldn't it be crazy if I went to the Olympics and then like I did and I was like, oh God, like what's happening? Like I definitely think that was not one of my more even keel moments, but I think I've improved on that, so hopefully that helps me.
All right. To close it out, I've got a couple fun questions for you. Taylor Swift named Time Magazine Person of the Year. Everyone knows you're a huge Taylor Swift fan. What she revealed in the interview with Time was that she does the Eras set list on the treadmill to get ready for shows. And there's like a mix of, I guess she goes fast for the fast paced songs, slow for the slow paced songs, which like at the end of it ends up being like 3 hours, 3.5 hours, or whatever it might be. So Taylor Swift might be a good marathoner, but what do you think? I guess she could run in a 5K if that's a training. And overall, just like what do you think of like the era's fartlek? Like we see you on the treadmill, at the OAC gym a lot. Is this something you would try at some point if Dathan allowed?
I mean, like, well, for what I think she could run a 5K, I'm very interested, would be interested to know like what's like fast for her versus slow for her. Like that makes like a big difference. But like honestly, like just standing up for 3 hours and like running for that long is like obviously a very long time to be running, something I've literally never done. So like like that's impressive. All the power to her. Yeah, I probably would not want to do this full eras fartlek. I think that would be a little much for me, seeing as how like I'm not even remotely interested in running a marathon. I think running for like I feel like 2 hours is like probably the limit of running I want to get to ever for like a super long run that we're doing or something like that. So I mean I find it a little hard to believe. I'm a little skeptical being a runner myself, but also like to be up there on stage for like 3.5 hours is also takes a lot out of someone. So you gotta prepare for it somehow.
Is there one Taylor Swift song that just gets your heart rate up immediately? Like for me, it's if I'm on a run and Bad Blood comes on, like that's the one that
Yeah.
just like a heartbeat goes up.
Yeah, no, that's a really good one. There's a few for me, but I really get pumped up from a lot of like more Reputation era ones. So like one of my favorites from that album is like Don't Blame Me. I like that a lot. And it like kind of starts out slow, but like really kind of like gets like really hyped up at the end, and like kind of that part like really gets me going a little bit. Or just any of the more popular ones, honestly. They're all like upbeat and just like, man, want to get me going, but I don't really listen to music while I run, so
All right, final question. Give us a Tyro update. You posted the video of putting him away for the winter. How's he doing?
yeah.
Or your pet tortoise for the people who are wondering.
Yes, yes. I mean, he's like, let's see if I can. like right there in the fridge, yeah, right behind me. He's been just chilling out. He's had a healthy looking hibernation so far. Obviously, he's not going to be doing much unless he's like Harry the Platypus and sneaking out of that fridge or something. But as far as I know, he's been just chilling there, looks healthy. And I'm already starting to miss him just like a little bit, but sure that'll get worse as the winter goes on. I
When
feel
do
like
when does
Tyra,
he come
like
back out?
he'll come back out in like April or something, maybe like late March.
Wow.
But it's just like I feel like this is where like I feel like I need Tyro the most because I'm just like it's gloomy and cold, and I'm just like sad because it's cold. I want it to be like 90 degrees, but it's not. And he's just chilling in the fridge the whole time. And I was like, man, I wish that was me. I could just sleep through the whole winter. And
Wait, so I don't I've never owned a pet tortoise or anything like that, but explain this to me, I guess, like why he needs to hibernate, like, and you just can't keep him out and keep the place warm enough for him.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, it depends a lot about your tortoise's breed. Like desert tortoises don't necessarily need to hibernate and like you can just have them out all the time. But when I first got Tyro, I feel like he was just like very, very sluggish and like not hanging out or as active at all during the whole winter. And so I was kind of like, well, like I looked into it and I was like, oh, a lot of breeds need to hibernate. And it's just like if done right, it can be like healthy for your tortoise and just like, help them like live longer and just like healthier lives as long as you hibernate right, which I was always really afraid of doing it wrong, but like he's still okay, so I think I'm fine. But yeah, it's just like a lot of where like the tortoises live, like he's from like the Mediterranean area, like those places, like they still get like kind of cold, and like tortoises really need to be like very warm, like above 75. And it's just not going to be above 75 in our house. Like I can turn the heat up, but like I feel like that'd be a little hot for all of us. And then even then I feel like he'd still be like kind of sluggish around it. So I think it's just easier this way also just to not that like I feel like I actually need a break from him because I don't do that much, but just to get like a little break and then reset. But stuff I'm gone all summer because then it's just like, well, shoot, then I'm hardly ever seeing the guys.
All right, yeah, all right. Well, I appreciate you taking the time for this and can't wait to see how the build up toward the Millrose Games goes. And then, come April, you're gonna have so many cool stories about the indoor season to tell Tyra.
You know him. I'm sure he'll be like very unimpressed as always. So